What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Adventures in Drunk Fish Keeping. That is refreshing. Tonight's video is being brought to you by a couple things. One, I never discussed the brews that I have when I'm doing my fish keeping. So tonight's brew is a Samuel Adams porch rocker. It's a nice shandy with a citrusy twist. It's good for a hot afternoon grilling, and you don't want a heavy beer on you. Really enjoyable. One of my probably favorite summertime beers. And the other part of tonight's video is about two things that I find interesting in the hobby. One, a lot of people who have started new fresh and or saltwater tanks or usually end up with a problem. They'll end up with what I like to call the brown hair ass algae. Or diatoms, and there's a million different species of diatoms. So if you can see my tank right now, as you can see up on the rock work, you can see the diatoms or brown hair algae. These guys come basically from a overload of silicates in the tank. I know exactly where mine came from. I did a kind of a no-no, and that was I topped my tank off with some tap water, and I'm on city tap water, and that's where I got mine from. Unfortunately, I was out of RO. I had to make a choice to basically top my tank off or have nothing in it. So topped off a tap, ended up getting a nice little algae spike, and I'm now paying for it. So I'm sure a lot of people have probably experienced this before, and they've run into questions like, what do I do to get rid of my brown algae? And there's a couple things you can do. One, start doing water changes a little more frequently. That'll help pull some of it out of there, because this stuff is really bad. And you can see my sand is actually pretty clean right now. I got up on the sand pretty well, but it's still, it's hard to get off. You can see it kind of here behind this Halmedia. It gets kind of in there, and it's like this big, strong sheet of goopy algae. Kind of a real pain in the ass to get rid of. But water changes will help it out, using RO water, and making sure the lighting is right, because you want to make sure your lighting, one, is good for the coral and fish population, but you also don't want to feed it too much, give it too much light, and you don't want to starve it for light, because kind of like Aptasia, they'll grow. And they'll grow in about any tank condition. And that's kind of one of the videos I've done before is on Aptasia and just how much of a pest it is. This is the algae pest. The other part of tonight's video, which I find really cool, and these are something I'm just now getting into. I've been wanting to do them in the 54 from before, but just never got around to doing it, is doing macroalgae. So I got two different types of macroalgae today from my local LFS. One is the Halmedia, which is a more of a calcium-based macroalgae, and then I've got the Chlamydia, which is more of a standard type, fleshy type of macroalgae. So far, my tank's kind of left it alone, so we'll see how long that lasts. The difference between the two, when you're talking about Halmedia is a calcium-based. It kind of creates a calcium-like skeleton with the photosynthetic algae on top of it. You're not going to really have to worry about your tang species and your herbivore species really attacking it as much. It's kind of not a very appealing flavor, shall we say, for them. Now on the Chlamydia, that is a little bit different. They will probably kind of go after that at some point. We'll see. That may end up having to go into a sump or refugium. So the cool thing about macroalgae, they give you kind of a different look. Still refreshing. They give you a different look than certain types of coral. Now, what I'm probably going to end up doing with a tank is I'm probably going to take and do this corner and this archway with coral, and probably propagate pretty heavily in the center area here with corals. And as you can see, I've already got a few. That one poori in the back, I actually pulled that out of my girlfriend's tank. It was doing pretty bad. Thinking we may have had another nudibranch attacking that. Turbinaria. So I'm probably going to end up doing this section of the tank with a heavy coral population. And I think I'm going to do a macroalgae little forest in this corner. And kind of fill in this archway with a little microalgae. That way the fish have some cover, and to me, honestly, it gives it a nice a look. It's something different. You don't see as much in the reef pictures, you know, on reef forums. I know there's a lot of people that run macros, so I'm not saying I'm the only person that does it. By any stretch of the imagination, I know a lot of people that do mangroves and a bunch of different macros in their sumps or refugiums. They do them in their tanks, they do them in nanos. So I'm not doing anything that's inventive or new. It's just I'm going to kind of combine both in one tank. Have a forest on one side and then end up with a kind of like a coral outcropping out here, and just basically have this entire archway and area covered with corals. Probably going to be a lot more of the you know, torches, Gonoporias, bubbles, mushrooms, brains, things like that, and then work back over. So another cool thing, you know, I was talking about nudibranchs. And my girlfriend's got her tank lights off right now because she's just put a new clown in there, a little lightning maroon and the other lightning maroon, and kind of fighting. So she's trying to keep that tank calmed down for the night. But we found something really cool. She got a piece of purple Gonoporia from our local LFS, and it had some blue sea squirts on it, which we thought were really cool. But it also had a Gonoporia eating nudibranch, which, if no one's ever seen one of those before, they'll actually go and blend in on top of your Gonoporia. And hers was actually making its appendages duplicate the look of a Gonoporia head, and it was pulsing. You couldn't even tell until you realized that there was just empty sockets of Gonoporia in the skeleton. It was eating it, and it did damage. And I mean, I'm talking like a couple hours. It ate a quarter of that Gonoporia. She caught it when she pulled it out of the tank, got up to the light, and kind of had the heads of the Gonoporia retract. Then it was easy to see the nudibranch. We had to pull it off, and unfortunately, since we don't have a smaller tank we can put it in for weird crap, we did have to kind of get rid of it. But that's something you should probably check out if you're getting Gonoporia or any type of coral. Check it for nudibranches, because that was something that kind of surprised both of us, because we've never seen it. Now, we did leave the ski squirts on because they are just kind of a filter feeder. But that was kind of a cool thing to see. Potentially thinking that this guy down here that we were talking about may have gotten that, or maybe it just had a bad reaction to something, so we're going to put it over my tank and just see if it was a issue with her tank, or it's just the coral itself had a shock. But so the macros, kind of going back to those, so both of these macros kind of come with different conditions. Now the Chlamydia, it does prefer a little bit more of a flow. It kind of will tolerate light. It doesn't have to be in super duper bright light like a mangrove. The Chlamydia, it is more of a moderate flow, and lighting is kind of important for it. You don't want to over light it because it can bleach like coral, because it does have a calcium base, but you don't want to starve it for light because then it won't grow as quickly. Now the Chlamydia will populate pretty quick, and so will the Chlamydia, but the Chlamydia will populate pretty quick. Now it is a calcium base, so you do have to feed it like you would feed coral. Make sure that it has a strong calcium base in the water for it to eat and grow from, because honestly you can't direct feed these like you would certain corals, like, you know, with acro, it's not acro, excuse me, acans, Gonoporias, you know, turbinarias, things like that, brains, mushrooms, things they're going to eat. You can't really feed this the same way. It's going to pull calcium in from the water column and grow from that. Now the Chlamydia, on the other hand, you can kind of feed the same way. They're not as calcium based, considering that they don't have that hard layer. So it will be kind of cool to see what happens with this in the tank, to see if the tang does try to, you know, eat it, if the tang tries to go after it. Considering I will be putting some more tangs in this tank, I guess we'll just kind of see where that goes. And there's my two little mocha clowns hiding out. They like that little corner. And my firefish, they love that little old piece of coral. That's where they live at. I've also got two other fishes, one of which you can't see right now. It's hiding. That would be a Bella sleeper head goby. Really cool fish. Wish it was out so you guys could see it. And also got another yellow chorus wrasse. because the really big, huge yellow chorus wrasse I got, that lovely specimen, was beat to death by Dexter, my Blenny. And that's the reason why Dexter's no longer in that tank, because he killed the last fish I was going to let him kill. But anyway, thought I'd bring you guys an update. If you got any questions, comments, post them below. Like the video. I'm going to be getting some more macroalgae stuff, so the people that want to see that in a tank, be ordering some more here shortly. And going to turn this kind of thing into a split macro with coral, so that'll be coming up soon. And tomorrow I may do a quick video just on the programming of the hydras. I know I've been talking about that, but I actually now have it set up on a tablet where I can show you how to program your light. And I'll show you probably on the Prime over here, because that's what my girlfriend's got set up, and it's a good one to show off. So appreciate it, guys. Have a good night.